Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm back in front of the bookshelf, which obviously means I'm doing a book video today, and I've just last night finished another book on BorrowBox, which is an app connected to Leeds Libraries. The book I just finished is The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. I've got that front cover right there. This was right up my street. It's in comedy, dark humour, horror, supernatural, ghost stories. I wouldn't call it a ghost story, but it is very thrillery. 26-year-old editorial assistant Nella Rogers is tired of being the only black employee at Wagner Books. Fed up with the isolation and the microaggressions, she's thrilled when Hazel starts working in the cubicle beside hers. They've only just started comparing natural hair care regimens though, when a string of uncomfortable events causes Nella to become public enemy number one and Hazel the office darling. Then the notes begin to appear on Nella's desk. Leave Wagner now. It's hard to believe Hazel is behind these hostile messages, but as Nella starts to spiral and obsess over the sinister forces at play, she soon realises that there is a lot more at stake than her career. This was 368 pages on ebook, in fiction, in dark humour, satire, horror fiction, supernatural fiction and ghost stories. I wouldn't call it a ghost story. Supernatural kind of maybe because of where it ends up. It's in satire as well, which I see, and the first thing you see in the description of this is Get Out meets The Devil Wears Prada, which I'll admit I haven't actually watched Get Out, but I do know the premise of it and I've seen clips of it, and having that combined with The Devil Wears Prada in the fact that this is about two women kind of against each other in publishing, I can totally see that comparison. And I'll admit it's not a happy ending of sorts. If anything, it's just a circle and it keeps coming back. And when I got to the end, I actually went back and read the very first chapters again just so I could see how it all connected, and it was just yeah, this is just one big circle and it's just going to keep going round and round in circles. Because yeah, so you meet Nella, and throughout the story you keep getting flashbacks to the 80s. Basically there is a book that got Nella into publishing, and there's references to that book throughout the entire story and what happened to the people that originally published that book. And yeah, it's very conspiracy theory, and where it kind of goes into the supernatural is when you start to hear about Hazel's side business in regards, I think it's a boyfriend's sister or a boyfriend's cousin who has a hair salon, and you find out that there is something in this hair gel. There was a point that's just really? The hair gel? But then when you just look at the conspiracy side of the story, it kind of all makes sense. But yeah, so you have this young woman who is she is the only black woman at the office, and the relief and happiness she feels when she finds out that another black woman is going to be starting at work, and she's just I'm not going to be the only one anymore, and she wants to create a friendship and be friends with Hazel. And then you realise that that isn't where this is going. This is rather than being friends with each other, it turns into Nella versus Hazel. Well, on the surface she seems quite nice. Basically you realise that Hazel is actually kind of against Nella, and it looks like she's doing everything she can to push Nella out. And when Nella starts receiving these notes telling, I just whacked myself in the face with my thing, when Nella starts to get notes left at her desk kind of to leave, and how it's going to be so much harder to get out, and then she gets a phone number, and she's there going, how do I explain this to other people? She tells her friend Malika about it, but she doesn't tell her boyfriend Owen. Owen kind of finds out about it kind of by accident, but then as you go through the story you realise that what's happened to Nella has happened before, and it's in relation to this book that got Nella into publishing in the first place. But yeah, it just feels like one big circle, and the way it all comes back, and just that conspiracy right at the heart of it. I mean, I think that was what made me go back to the beginning again once I finished it. I feel like I'm being so cryptic about it, just because it's one of those books you just really need to read to really understand where it's going. But yeah, it's very much Nella versus Hazel, And when Nella realises it's Nella versus Hazel, Nella decides that she needs to do her own investigation to find out actually who Hazel actually is, because you realise that Hazel isn't her real name, and there is some conspiracy at play, and Nella feels like she's being pushed out, and she's trying to work out who was doing the pushing, and you realise that it's not just one person, it's a conspiracy, and that's the only way to describe it, really. So you've got that thriller, you've got that social commentary in there as well, and it's so good. It was funny, it was kind of terrifying at certain points when you realise what's being done, and because also, while you're also getting like the backstory of what happened before, you're getting Nella's life story, and then you're getting a completely different point of view related to the flashbacks, where other people know who Nella is, and you're just like, wait, how is this all connected? And so you really just have to pay attention to what's happening in each section just to really understand what the circle is. Does this make any sense? I just feel like I have to be really cryptic, because some of it, it's just, as stuff comes out, you're just like, wait, what? It's kind of disturbing, but also brilliant. Just that Get Out and The Devil Wears Prada really is just the perfect description, because in like the little tagline it says Get Out meets The Devil Wears Prada in this electric debut about the tension that unfurls when two young black women meet against the starkly white backdrop of book publishing. There's definitely more to it than that, but you realise that Hazel is not a real new girl. You realise that Hazel has connections within the company that Nella's not aware of, even though Hazel is acting like she's brand new, and it feels like she's like worming her way in to the relationships and things, because like while Nella has tried to stand up to this company and has worked really hard for the 2 years I think it is she's been there for, and Nella has tried to put in place things to represent like diversity within the company, and trying to get this completely white company to understand the microaggressions that Nella has experienced at the company, and when she's trying to put things in place, and like where it happened for like a couple of months and then they just forget about it, and then Hazel comes in and within 2 months she's gotten them starting to talk about it again, and Nella feels like that all the hard work she has done over the past 2 years has been completely squashed by someone who's there for 2 months, and she's just like, why they listen to her but not me? And that's where the conspiracy comes in, because you're just there thinking, wait, then what is the connection that Hazel has to the company and everybody else? Who knows who she really is? And what is going on with this side story in regards to the hair product? And when it all comes out, you're just like, wait. And I think that's where the kind of like the slightly supernatural side comes in. I definitely wouldn't put it under a ghost story, that doesn't make any sense. But the supernatural comes in with what is going on that side thing in regards to like the hair. That probably sounds really bizarre, but you have to read it to understand that, and I'm not going to spoil that part, because it really is such an unbelievable moment when you find out what's happened. And when I went back and read, after I finished it, when I went back to the beginning of the book and read that very first chapter, it was just like, wait, it was there from the beginning. It was there from the very, very, very beginning. All I'm going to say is that just pay attention to the fact that in that first chapter, the person, I'm not going to say who it is, the person in that first chapter keeps referencing something being really itchy and scratchy on her head. And then the first sentence of the first proper chapter, because it's like the prequel bit before the main book starts, in the prologue it starts in December 1983. And the very first bit is, stop fussing at it now, leave it alone, but my nails are on my scalp anyway, running from front to back to front again. And so you got reference to somebody having quite an itchy scalp, and then the very first line, the first sign was the smell of cocoa butter. When you know what happens, the references to the scratchy head and then the smell of the cocoa butter from Nella in that very first proper chapter, and I'm just like, it was there from the very, very beginning, and I cannot believe that happened. yeah, it's not like it comes completely out of left field, because even though it kind of feels like it does when you get to that point, when you go back to the beginning of the book, it was right there in front of you the whole time. And yeah, this is up there with favourite books for me, because it was funny and disturbing, and yeah, the way Nella reacts to everything around her, and I can totally imagine this as a movie, and I hope it is turned into a movie at some point, because it was just so clever and really gets you thinking, especially when you're looking at it from the point of view of a black woman, where she is the only black woman in the office, and seeing what she does to try and diversify her company, and the way the people around her just kind of brush her off. And then when you have another black woman start the office, and suddenly it's just like, oh, but Hazel is great, and Nella's just there going, what have I been doing for the past 2 years? So it's really eye-opening as well. But yeah, this is up there for me as just a fantastic book. I'll get that front cover up again for you. It's like 3 different front covers for this. When you go into the book, it's this yellow one. I love the front cover for that, with the hair comb, but then the other front cover shows the sunglasses with the cracks in it. This was a bloody brilliant book, and from the looks of things, I think this was a first book. I think this was a breakout thing from Zakiya Dalila Harris. It says set to be one of 21's biggest breakout names, so I wonder if there's anything else from her, or if she's released anything else yet. There's nothing on here at the moment, but this is North I'm keeping an eye on, because I absolutely love this book. If anybody thinks that what happens comes out of left field, go back to those first 2 chapters and you realise it was there from the very, very beginning. Once everything comes out and you go back and read those first 2 chapters again, it was just like, no, it was always there. There's references to it at the very, very beginning. It's weird how I can say it comes back to hair, but it really does come back to hair. Oh, yeah, other black girl, Zakiya Dalila Harris. There you go. I can't believe I did that on record time, because I need to get ready to go to my singing lesson now. But yeah, I've just started reading Animal Farm, a book that I've never read, but it's a classic. It's not one I ever did at school, but I realised just how short it actually is. Because when I look at it on my phone, it's 131 pages. When I read it on my iPad, it's about 60, because obviously the iPad's bigger. I keep going out of frame. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time with another video. Stay safe, everybody. Love you all. Off to sing my heart out now.